Hello and welcome back. I'm Joseph Hoffman, and in this lesson we're going to tackle learning the B section of Burgmüller's Arabesque. Let's get started by taking a look at the score. By now you should have already learned the A section, right hand and left hand, and maybe you're even starting to work on that hands together. Today we're going to work on the B section, which begins here in measure 12. Will you take a look at the B section and just scan through and tell me what you notice about the B section? Maybe you notice that the left hand now is playing the same rhythm that the right hand used to play. Remember how the right hand goes? The right hand has that ticky ticky T rest, ticky ticky T rest rhythm. Now that rhythm's in the left hand. Ticky ticky T rest, ticky ticky T rest. So we're putting the melody down in the left hand, and our right hand has its own counter melody. There'll actually be two melodies going on at the same time. When that happens, we can call the secondary melody a counter melody. It's like a melody that supports the other melody. They work together to make the music. Let's take a look at the rhythm of this right hand counter melody. We have a dotted quarter note. You may recall that a dotted quarter note is equal to 1.5 beats. So we'll count 1 and 2. Remember, the 2 refers to the first half of beat 2. So we get all of beat 1, half of beat 2, leaving the final and for this eighth note. 1 and 2 and. And that rhythm continues throughout this section. Notice how the right hand has this 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Can you try that with me? Let's count 1 and 2 and while we tap the rhythm of the right hand part. Count out loud with me and tap. Get ready, go. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. And notice here it says dim, which stands for diminuendo. Diminuendo means gradually getting softer. A means and. Poco ritardando. Poco ritardando means slow down a little bit. If you know Spanish or Italian, poco is a little. So slow down a little bit and get softer. Diminuendo e poco ritardando. So we'll go and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and da 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 dum ba da 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 da. And then you'll notice it goes back to the theme from our A section. When you see these words a tempo in the score, that means to go back to your original speed. A tempo usually comes after a ritardando, and it's usually placed above both staves, like this. A tempo means back to your original full speed. Okay, now let's tap the rhythm of your left hand. So I've moved here, now I'm using my left hand, and we're going to tap the rhythm down here, which is like this. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2. Let's try it together. Will you try that with me? Tap the rhythm of the left hand while we count the beat. Remember, we've got ticky ticky T rest. But we're going to count the beat. 1 and 2. Get ready. I'll count 2 beats, then we'll start. 1, 2. 1 and 2 rest. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. We're gradually getting softer and slowing down there, and then we go back ta ta to the A section with those quarter note chords. Now let's try these two different rhythms, which by themselves may not be too hard, but we're going to try it now, hands together, by tapping on the piano lid or your lap. So now get both of your hands ready, and we're going to count the beat out loud. You'll notice that on beat 1 they play together, and then the left hand's going to continue with those 16th notes while the right hand holds, like this. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So see how the right hand's tapping on that and after beat 2, while the left hand's going 1 and 2. But the right hand is 1 and 2 and. Together, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Now you try it with me. Let's count the beat, and we're going to tap this crazy rhythm. Here we go. I'll count 2 beats to get us ready, then we start. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Count with me. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2. Then we're back to the A theme. Okay, now pause and rewind if you need more practice with that. Otherwise, let's keep going. Can you tell me the letter name of the first note the left hand plays here in measure 12? If you said G sharp, you're correct. Remember, we're in the key of A minor, and sometimes G becomes sharp if we use harmonic minor. And here in this measure, we are in fact using harmonic minor. So we need that G sharp. Now, should this G be a G? No. Do you remember the rule for a sharp placed in the flow of the notes? If it's placed right here, that sharp lasts for one measure. So any other G's on the same line or space are also sharp. So we'll have a G sharp both at the start and the end of that phrase. And just like the right hand, when we get to the end of that phrase, you want to just gently lift the wrist to make that staccato quick and light. If you hit down, it's going to make a heavy, kind of ugly sound. You want a light, crisp sound. So lift the wrist. Then you'll see in measure 13, finger 5 moves to A, and then we just go up those 5 notes. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Now pause the video and work on measures 12 and 13, and then press play to go on. Now, take a look at measures 14 and 15 and tell me what's the same and what's different from what you just played. You always have to compare the notes really carefully, but if you check every note, you'll see it's exactly the same as measures 12 and 13, so we already know this. Okay? Now, let's go on to measure 16. Tell me the letter name of the first note in measure 16. If you said C sharp, you're correct. So, and it's our middle C becoming a C sharp. And is this note C or C sharp? That's right, it's C sharp because we had that sharp before. It's still active through the end of the measure. 1 and 2 and then, whoa! Here we are in the left hand part, which is typically a bass clef, but what's this treble clef doing here? That's telling us to get ready because on the next line we're switching to treble clef. And that's because our left hand is now going so high, it's better to write the notes in treble clef than bass clef. Otherwise there'd be so many ledger lines. So the composer decided, hey, I'll just make this easier. Let's make this treble clef. And then I can just show this is a D a step above middle C. Because my left hand came so high, we're really in treble clef land now. Does that make sense? So back here in measure 16, we're here on that C sharp, and then we switch to treble clef. Now you try. Good. Now let's go all the way back to measure 12 and listen once. Here's the left hand part. Then we're going to stop right there. There's more notes after that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Press pause and work on measures 12 through 17, stopping partway through measure 17. Once you finish that phrase, after that staccato, you can stop. Work on that on your own, then press play to go on. Now here in measure 17, you just played, and then what happens? The notes are stepping down with eighth notes. One mistake students make here sometimes is playing these eighth notes too fast. You're so used to playing 16th notes, ticky, ticky, tee, ticky, ticky, tee, that you want to rush those eighth notes. But remember, eighth notes are twice as slow as 16th notes. So it goes ticky, ticky, tee, 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 tee. Okay, watch that again. We have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And we're going to be gradually getting softer as we play all of those notes. Okay? Now, let's watch these notes more carefully one at a time. We have stepping up, step down, step down, step down, step down. Now I'm on finger 5 on D. Then I get a D sharp, and it asks for finger 3. And that's because we have to shift to finger 1 on the next note. So notice those 3 notes in a row just go D, D sharp, E. But you're going to use fingers 5, 3, 1, using left hand. Now, will you try just these 3 notes? Actually, just take any finger and play those 3 notes just to kind of see that. That's called going up by half steps. Now use your left hand and go finger 5, 3, 1. I want you to do that like 10 times. Okay, let's just do it together. Let's do that over and over again. 5, 3, 1. D, D sharp, E. Again. D, D sharp, E. Once you get really comfortable with that, this is going to really help you out if you do the right fingering. And then it becomes D natural. So that natural symbol cancels the sharp. The sharp actually already was canceled by the bar line. So the composer didn't need to put a natural symbol there. It's just a courtesy to remind you that D sharp was canceled. So we come down white notes. And then it goes back to bass clef with this A minor chord. And you'll see your hands in the perfect position already to make that switch. Okay, so watch measures 17 through 19 once. Here it goes. Step down, step down, step down, D sharp, E, D, C, B. Doesn't that sound cool? Now, press pause and work on measure 17 all the way through the return to that A theme when you play this A minor chord. Press pause to work on that section, then press play to go on. Now let's check out the right hand part. Backing up to measure 12, tell me the letter name of the first note you see here in the right hand. If you said E, you're correct. Finger 5 is here on E. Here's my middle C, so I'm up 1 octave plus a third. And then tell me the interval between these first 2 notes. If you said a fourth, you're correct. See, the distance of 4 notes makes a fourth. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Will you press pause and on your own work on measures 12 through 15, then press play to go on. Good, now look at the last note of measure 15 and then tell me the interval from this note to the next note you see, the first note of measure 16. It's a wide interval. If you said an octave or an eighth, you're correct. See, it's an A to an A, so it has to be an octave. So it'll be and 1. So you're going to have to kind of reach or glide your hand up. If you have small hands and you can't reach an octave, see, my hands can reach an octave. If your hands can't quite reach, just glide over, okay? You don't have to really hurt your hand or contort it. You know, just do what's comfortable. And 1 and 2 and 1. And you'll notice this follows that pattern of down a fourth, then up a step again. Okay, so practice going and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Now you try. Good, and then after we land there on that F, you'll notice we have a whole bunch of notes stepping down in a row. The fingering is where you have to really pay attention. Okay, so notice we step down, we step down. Now we're on finger 1, but we have another step down. That's okay. We know how to do scales, so we know how to do that. We're going to cross over finger 3. And now we're good, right? No, we need one more step down. So now finger 2 is just going to come over to that G sharp. And then we have the interval of a 1/6 up to that E. Okay, see how I did that? Let's start on this F, our flag F, measure 17, 1 and 2 and 1, 3 crosses over, 2 crosses over, and at full speed, it's going to sound like this. Here's measure 16, or the pickup to measure 16. Doesn't that sound cool? Listen one more time. Now, that's going to take some practice. This is possibly the hardest part of the whole piece because our right hand is doing some crossing over, the left hand's doing that weird 5-3-1 fingering. But I promise if you master the fingering carefully and then stick to it, don't let the fingering corrupt or change, then it will be much easier to put hands together, okay? Right hand crosses over, getting softer and slower. Okay, now pause the video and work on measures 16. Start on that little 8th note, A, and then lead into that high A, and then this little scale down with the crossovers. Press pause to work on that section, right hand alone, then press play to go on. Now, today you probably won't be ready to put this hands together, and that's good. I want you to spend 2 or 3 days really mastering the hands alone, getting those fingerings correct, getting the rhythms correct, and then you'll be ready to tackle the hands together. And when you do feel ready, again, go really slow and watch how the hands work together. Remember how we practiced tapping those rhythms. Sometimes the hands play together, and sometimes they're taking turns. On beat 1, they play together. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Also notice that this time the right hand is legato, while the left hand is also legato, except for that last note of the phrase. So the left hand's going to do a little wrist lift while the right hand is holding steady. Staccato in the left hand, while the right hand is legato the whole time. Now both hands are legato and getting softer and slower. Back to the main theme. Again, don't try it hands together today. Wait until you feel like you've got the hands alone mastered and then slowly work it hands together. Great work learning the B section for Burgmüller's Arabesque. Happy practicing and see you next time. Hey chef, want to hear a joke? You bet. What do you call a tune that knows its numbers? I don't know. A counter melody. Very funny.